Welcome back to Three Springs Native Nursery. I apologize for any issues with audio today. We're running without microphones. It's just a little too damp and wet out here to be taking the case off of my phone. It's the only thing I got to record on, so I'd rather be safe than sorry. But today you can see we've gone through our second ice storm in the last 3 days, and I want to highlight just a little bit about how beautiful this act of nature is. It doesn't happen all that often, but when it does, it gives us just a little insight to the artistic nature of our Creator. If you've ever been around the Appleton area or Neenah and had the chance to go to the Bergstrom Glass Museum, this might end up being very, very similar to that. Ice storms are simply nature's way of creating glass art. There is beauty in every plant as it gets encapsulated. I think that it's absolutely beautiful getting to see the formations. So we're going to take a little walk around. We're going to take a look at some of the storm damage that we've had, as well as some of the beauty that this ice storm has brought us. Here at the nursery, we've definitely felt the effects of the ice storm. Currently we got one tree resting up against the power lines. I do got some reports out to those that care. We lost a handful of cedars and got really, really lucky that the shed didn't get hit by this falling one. It's going to be a nice little tip-up site, but I would have liked having that guy there still. So we got a little bit of cleanup to do. As we pan over, we see more of the devastation and destruction. The cedars are really the ones that get hit the hardest. As the ash trees have died in here, there's been a lot less cover for them to be able to shed them of the weight that is all of the ice. So they really get loaded down, top heavy. We had this one here, did a tip-up style, and then these two snapped off at different heights. Back here we have another tip-up. It's kind of a mess around here, but at the same time, you'll see as we dive into some of the plants around here and the trees that nature deals both harshness and beauty often at the same time. Here is just a gorgeous formation. This is one of our black cherry trees, and this is one of the coolest looking pieces that I've seen out here so far. All the drips along your branches, and then when you step back, it's almost like it's decorated for Christmas. Each one a little icicle, providing a little bit of light and creating structure for our tree. Here's a beautiful example of one of the more rare trees on my property, the American hop hornbeam. You can see some of the leaves that are left over from the senescence process last year. A lot of times trees that hold on to their leaves throughout winter do so as a way to protect the terminal buds underneath and just provide a little extra insulative layer. You'll see it a lot on new growth. I know oak trees will often do that for the first 5 to 10 years of their lives. If you know more about oak senescence or the ways that some trees protect their buds over winter, let us know in the comments down below. We'd love to hear more about it. But coming back over to the tips of the branches on these American hop hornbeams, you can see the little catkins just growing off the tips and the ends, and they are absolutely gorgeous right now. But I'm telling you, all of these little elements just remind me of the glass paperweights that have all the beautiful art inside them at the Bergstrom Art Museum or the Glass Museum. if you ever find an opportunity to get out after an ice storm, make sure you're careful about the areas that you're in and when that ice is going to start falling out of those trees. But there's something so impeccably beautiful about all these different ice formations. I have some footage of this creek before our rain event, and you'll notice that there's not as much sand and silt in here. But after the 2 ice storms that we've had, you can see just how much sediment is moving down the system. You can watch the little black pieces of dirt just wash away over the top of that sand. This is how soil washes away. A 1.5 years ago, I dropped this tree right over the creek, and that acts as a very good buffer to be able to slow down a lot of this soil and a lot of the erosion. As you can see, the water comes out much slower on the backside, and you don't have that same amount of erosion and debris washing away. One of the best things we can do is to leave downed material and be the beavers that would help slow down some of the erosion and the topsoil loss. We have to act proactively in a manner that allows us to help these systems retain their soil and retain the rich nutrients and minerals that have taken so long to develop. And then you've seen some of the times when it's just the spring system flowing itself and it's just a mere trickle of what it is right now. Still a lot of water running through it, but nothing like when we actually get our runoff rain events. So this is what it looks like when we get heavy rains. You've seen just how dry this area is when it's only the springs running through here. But we get tons and tons of runoff water, and this whole area just gets completely inundated. But again, that's the purpose of a fen wetland. The goal is to slow and absorb the water and to be able to pull out any of the toxins that are inside the water as it passes by. These are our land's filters. So this is the edge of the property where all the runoff water comes from, up over beyond the school area. It flows out those pipes through the field and then down this back alley. From there, it flanks and floods out all the way across my property up until the springs in this area where I was showing you all the silt and runoff underneath the bridge. That's right up over there. So all this water just blankets across. I'd say last night we probably got close to 3/4 of a million gallons, so 750,000 gallons of water running through this system, and that'll do that every single time that it rains 1 inch to 2 inches. This is what the wetlands are for. They are to capture, to catch, to slow, to mitigate, and to remove the toxins, as well as retain more of that soil base that's been lost from the fields and from around the school. This is their purpose. This is their function. Catch, slow, and spread. So if you've seen the cover photo on our website or my post about waiting for our carpets of geraniums, this is what that looks like right now. It's all just blanketed and covered in leaves. You would never suspect that there's so much beauty to be held. But if you zoom in close and you take a moment to uncover some of the leaves, there's other little surprises down here. Each one of these is a combination of a trout lily or a spring beauty. And you can see them just starting to slowly pop up. So it's only a matter of another week or two as temperatures finally come back to a little more normal spring range that we're going to start seeing carpets of spring ephemerals all across this backwooded maple area. Some people like lawn, other people like sedges. Look at these cute little Carex pennsylvanicas, your Pennsylvania sedge. It's either that or it could be the Eastern Star sedge. We have both of those in quite abundant numbers here. But you can see just how they start to hold their shape and their form and help direct the water. They build a buffer to help slow and process the water, redirect it to different areas and channels. But those Carexes are holding their spot, keeping their roots and soil in place, and keeping the erosion to a minimum in this area. Water will find the path of least resistance, and often that's around your sedges. So consider that when you're trying to control the flow of runoff water around your property or soil erosion. They are the skin to our forest and to our lawns, to our landscapes. So if you haven't incorporated them yet, now's your time. We'll check out one other example of a larger style Carex that we have in the back that's more of a mounding. But this is another really good example of how the Carex hold their place and help to mitigate erosion and runoff. This little water runoff system runs right across and encounters a patch of sedges that help do that exact thing by holding all the soil and erosion in place. This Carex is called Carex bromoides, or the drop seed of the woods. As you can see, it builds beautiful, beautiful clumps. I'm 4, 5, 6 inches in water here. And these mounds of Carexes are setting roots and have been disrupting this water flow for years and years and years. So here we have some black currants growing alongside your Carexes. And those two systems, their root systems, are intertwined and connected, literally creating little mini dams throughout this area, slowing down the water and allowing it to penetrate and spread out across the landscape. This is exactly how we prevent erosion of our topsoil, is by planting with native plants so that they can start to take up space that will interfere with our flow of water. They can live in that area, but they also help to mitigate some of the issues with runoff. The really cool thing about these Carex bromoides is that they're cool season grasses. Most of our sedges are, but they produce a big flushing head in spring, followed by florets. I'll put a picture up on the screen here. And once those florets finish their job, the inflorescences go away, the head will droop over just like a hula hoop skirt, as you can see here with a bunch of these examples. Now, they'll kind of go dormant during summer with the heat, but they'll quickly come back in fall as the temperatures start to cool off again and produce a second flush out of their mounds. As they do this year after year after year, they build up large systems like this, or large mounds. We can take a look more closely at what this looks like. That's its root network. that's all extended above the water line. And when this water recedes, we'll continue to be exposed to air and oxygen. But that is the root systems that hold all the dirt, all the soil, block these leaves and the little sticks here, which create our damming networks. So don't feel like everything needs to be removed. Just simply add a little bit more. Add some things that are going to slow down that runoff water and help to spread it out across the landscape. The more we can slow and spread water, the better off we'll be at infiltrating that into our soils while not losing our soils at the same time. Now, I'm not necessarily an ant expert. Gotta appreciate the geese. I'm not necessarily an ant expert, but I do want to highlight for those who are curious that these sedges, especially the ones that create mounds over years and years, often these sedges are connected to having symbiotic relationships with specific types of ants. There's some research that someone has done. There's a presentation on YouTube regarding it. I'll see if I can find a link for it, and I'll throw it in the description down below. I found it to be super interesting as I'm developing more and more of an appreciation for the value, use, and purposes of our native sedges. Here is another gorgeous example of an American hophorn beam. This one you can see really well how all the leaf tips are dripping off. It's just gorgeous. I recommend to anyone who has the opportunity to get out after one of these ice storms and explore a little bit of the natural areas, do so. Again, you want to get out here right after it finishes raining and kind of forming that ice, and before it all starts melting off and big chunks start coming out of the tree. There is a little bit of a hazard to it. So this is definitely when you do not want to be out and about checking out nature. Unless you got a couple hard hats, full bubble boy suit, I'd have to stay inside right now. To it, but the things that you'll see will really make you stop and take your breath away. Nature is beautiful in all of its many forms. This here is a beautiful subject. Just a gorgeous, almost like a chandelier. This is a little part of our little prairie habitat that we hang out by, and we'll often read during the summer and watch all the butterflies float around in here. They absolutely love this area. Here's another really cool one. This is the pussy willows that we were doing cuttings of just the other week. They just started forming their calyxes. They're just gorgeous. Beautifully encapsulated. Got a little tricked by the nice 65-degree days that we had there 2 weeks ago. One of the other cool things when it comes to the glass museum that is nature's ice storms is you get two versions of the museum. The first is your sheer beautiful perfect glass ice all the way around your plants, and then you have this version where as things start to warm up and as things start to melt off, all of it goes into a shatter form of itself. And oftentimes there's just as much beauty and complex richness when taking a look at this form of the glass sculptures that nature provides us through ice. Here's our nanny berry. It's one of our native viburnums. I think they look pretty cool when they're encapsulated. Just playing with nature's glass art. And that's about going to do it here for this video. I really appreciate you joining in as we take a look at some of the glass art that nature provides when it goes through these ice storm events. It's definitely been challenging here at the property, but at the same time, there's a lot to explore and a lot to value and appreciate. I just want to take a quick moment to highlight that May is quickly approaching. We are still on track to be opening up the first weekend of May. So we look forward to having all of you come down and check out a lot of the plants that we're growing this year. We'll be adding throughout the season without a doubt. But feel free to share this with a friend, like, subscribe, join us over on our Facebook page, and you'll be able to follow along with all of our updates as they go on by a day-by-day basis. Otherwise, take care, and we'll talk to you next time. That's pretty neat. Hope you get the reference.